Aloha and good morning. Let me hear an aloha. Aloha. Yes, thank you. Well, welcome to Hawai'i and Kiawava Complex. This is a 5-acre parcel that was protected by Livable Hawaii Kaihui. We are a community 501c3 organization that's been serving the East Honolulu area. We'd like to refer to this area so that you know as Hawaii Kai as Honolulu. That's the place name. But we've been serving community and doing what we're doing since 2004. And the purpose and intent of the work that we do is to protect the East Honolulu Sustainable Communities Plan. It's a very important county document that talks about how a community changes, what we protect, and
same thing, right?
growth as well. And at the state level, they do also recognize that county plan. So here at Hawai'i and Kiawava wetland, this particular landscape was able to be protected prior to the work that we started doing on the Kai'iwi coast. Today, our landscape hero that we're talking about, and you'll get to experience, is the Kai'iwi coast. And we're really fortunate that we have with us today an amazing person that's part of your group, which is Phil Esterman. So as we talk this morning, we're going to talk a little bit about the early days of saving the Kai'iwi coast. We're going to move into when the baton or the torch was passed to the next generation, which is where I would step in. And then we're going to talk about, in addition to that, the most important aspect of everything that we do here in Hawaii is giving rise to the culture, to the Hawaiian culture. So make no mistake about it, when it comes to saving sacred places, protecting them, caring for them, you always need to give rise to that host culture. And we're really fortunate because nobody knew better how to care for landscapes than the Hawaiian people. So one of the things I wanted to mention before we get into Kai'iwi in itself is in 2004, when our organization started, there was just a skeleton group of us, and we weren't familiar on how do you organize, how do you bring community together. We were fortunate, and this is how we came to understand the Kai'iwi issue. We were fortunate to reach out and find lovely, wonderful people that have spent decades protecting the Kai'iwi coast. They taught us how to do what we call grassroots organizing, and they mentored us. Mentorship is so important if you're interested in land conservation and moving forward the culture. And so we were fortunate to have been mentored by the late Dave Matthews, Shirley Lung, Peter Rappa, and there are many, many, many more. What I'm going to ask you to think about is when Phil starts talking to you a little bit about the early days of, say, Sandy Beach, and which is the bigger context of Kai'iwi, understand that we did not have social media. Understand that I believe there were typewriters. I have seen documents in Courier font. Understand that when he mentions about the 40-something petitions that they went ahead, 40,000 something petitions that they had signed, those documents had your name, address, social security number. How interesting is that? So we're talking about a climate of time that was vastly different than it is today, which is what really makes that whole movement of the Kai'iwi coast and our forefathers that had such an unbelievable vision, that body of work is so, so important. I also want to mention real quick that a lot of that work, that body of work, was saved in such an amazing way. And it was eventually turned over to the University of Hawaii. And I believe it's with the Hawaiian Studies, and you can access all of that through the library. So I thought that was really kind of interesting too.
Can you see a nice big resort there? Little yacht club. But actually, that's what's going to happen. The threat was real. So what happens, you don't see it today, and we go, oh, that was never going to happen. They would do that. Absolutely right point. Part of the work that Suzanne did, Elizabeth, and Livable Hawaii did, remind people not only the beauty of the place, but the connection to Kupuna. Stones there. If we're all down there together, if you want to come ask me over there, I'll tell you some stories of the pohaku there. The pohaku are the stones. But it's filled not only with beauty, but it's filled with mana. Mana is power. And that mana guided us up to the Mauka lands, where we talked about no cabins. Not only did we save that property, thank goodness, but we went up there and there's a number of archaeological features up there that have never been looked at. So this summer we're important.
The lowest ownership percentage Native Hawaiians. 100 years ago, Principal Hill, you guys remember you have holiday Principal Hill when you're at Eastwood Center? He said, we're going to give the Hawaiians 203,000 acres in 1921, and we're going to franchise them with either an agriculture, an urban, or a ranch lot. Fast forward 100 years, 2021, last year, guess how many homesteaders have lots and leases? 9,850. Guess how many people are on the wait list? 28,618. We have broken the promise, and that's what my office is research. It's called broken promises. We promised the Hawaiians, and generally speaking, I've been in the legislature for about 20 years. For the 15 years that I was there, it's Hawaiian issues regarding protocol, culture, hula, and music. Hey, komo mai, Hawaii, you're number one.
Can I just add something to that? So when Kuhio did that, he realized Hawaiians were marrying into other races. So he actually said anyone Hawaiian is 1/32 Hawaiian. It was the U.S. government changed it to 50% Hawaiian. So that is deliberate. And you'll see that in other Native people. I've learned a lot about Native American different tribes and that same thing. So while it's great, and that's the issue too, when you say Native Hawaiian, it's a very politically charged word because it almost separates us. I don't call myself a Native Hawaiian, I just call myself a Hawaiian because I understand the implications.
A whole group of alumnus on Sandy Beach, and we want you to know that you're very well covered. Eastwood Center is very well covered here because Phil Esterman, who is the champion for, as his t-shirt says, Save Sandy Beach. This is Phil Esterman. Phil, you want to say welcome? There's 170 people who are online, who are not here physically in the alumnus occasion.
Well, we wish you could be here with us, but this is a particularly valuable scenic area. And I was explaining on the way here that when we were fighting this out with the developers in 1987, the city released the Scenic Coastal View Study, which established the prominence of this area as being the premier scenic viewshed, coastal plain, coastal viewshed for Oahu that was accessible to the public. And we were pleading with the city council at the time to wait, don't make a decision because the report was going to be coming out in a few months. And they just sort of disregarded all of that and went ahead and voted approval for development here. So that's why people were really aggravated and were ready to fight.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Phanwin Yokying. Welcome back and thank you for joining us for our second day of the international conference. And here with me, we have Ahmad Ratza. He's originally from Afghanistan and he was part of the intercultural interchange in 1968. Ahmad, would you want to tell the virtual audience? We're currently in the art gallery of the EWCA Center. Would you like to tell the audience about the highlights that you find of the art gallery?
I'll be happy to share that. It is a delight to be here after so many years of being absent from Hawaii. And I came as an undergraduate student here, finished my degree, and then moved on to get my doctoral degree at the University of Maryland. And in fact, I came back in 1994 rather, to 1998 at the UH Manoa, teaching here. And then I went back to the US mainland, and I had now been in Hong Kong for the last 12 years. And this conference was originally planned for 2 years ago, but because of COVID, we couldn't come. But it's a very delightful experience to be back here at the center. And I'm so happy to see that President Lam is here and taking the initiative on new programs and ideas for the Eastwood Center. And I'm very, very happy, to say the least, to be back on the campus and then to meet some of my old friends and have a wonderful time remembering all of those memories of time past. And the gallery definitely reminds me of the times that we used to have live performances at the Easter Center by the students for the international nights, and mostly the Pacific Islanders were doing their performances. Every country had theirs, and including Afghanistan. We had almost, at one point, about 30 students here at the center. And that was the ultimate number that we had. And then after that, the program started to swindle and to fewer. But I didn't return back to Afghanistan after I finished my degree and remained in the United States. So I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. Is there any highlights and takeaway from the conferences you want to share to the audience?
Yesterday's performances by, or in this case, I should say, presentations by the different groups, the journalists in particular, were quite impressive to see and hear what they were talking about, the impact of journalism on the world affairs. And having lived in Hong Kong for the last 12 years, I can see how important freedom and freedom of the press is. And so the message was protect our journalists as much as we possibly can, because they want to bring the truth to the surface. And many times, unfortunately, we get caught with all of this self-centered individuals who keep talking about their own ideas of what it is to be free in a free society. So that was a nice message. And also Dan, the Secretary of State, her message about what needs to be done. I was also a former Fulbrighter from the US to Hong Kong, and the program unfortunately got stopped. And one of the questions that was raised by a former colleague, a student at the Easter Center, he indicated that it's time for us to bring back the Fulbright to Hong Kong as well as Fulbright to China. Given the scenarios that we are facing currently in the tension between the US and China, educational programs are the ones that will really bridge the gap and hopefully will minimize the problems that the world is facing today. So that was the message that I received yesterday.
Well, thank you so much for the comprehensive response. And please stay tuned, because we're going to go to the Lohi, the taro patch, in a few moments. And we also have, later on today, we're going to have plenary session. Me and my team will be presenting and also talk stories in the afternoon. So please don't go anywhere. This is Phanwin, back to the studio.
Nice to see everyone. Mahalo everybody for coming today to Aloha'Oe Supreme Court House for the State of Hawaii in the Judiciary History Center. Thank you for the introduction, Lance. I'm Amalina. I'm the Hawaiian Language Education Specialist for the Judiciary, and the honor and privilege of being your guide this morning.
Welcome all. We're here at the Mauka, which is the Judiciary Building and at the capital of the Kingdom of Hawaii. Today it's an important historic center as well. Kamehameha V Judiciary Historic Center. We're going to get a briefing right now, meeting one of the Supreme Court justices of the Hawaii Supreme Court, and also a very interesting opportunity. We'll be able to participate, sort of an experiential learning opportunity, where we're going to be reenacting a very famous case, a court case that took place here in the 19th century. Very controversial, had to deal with a lot of land tenure issues, of course, and just illustrates how important it is to keep the history and showcase it, so we learn about our past. And so this is the exciting opportunity for us to come here and visit this historic visit to Aloha'Oe in downtown Honolulu. Thank you all. We'll see you inside.
History Center, established in 1989, as a space, educational space, that will be a bridge between the community, our students, and visitors alike, and our very special and unique branch of government, the judiciary here in the state. So we're dedicated to law history and the judicial process. We have a series of curriculum. One of them we will be diving into today.
But before I start to speak to you, I understand you are all alumni of the East-West Center. Wonderful. That's wonderful. So I think what I will do is just explain a little bit about my background and explain a little bit about our court, what we do, and then open it up to any questions that you might have. So first of all, aloha. I came to the University of Hawaii, and this is kind of an opportune time. And then I went to the University of Hawaii Law School, William Association School of Law. And it actually, I graduated from the University of Hawaii in law. I studied Japanese under the bilingual program. I was studying to be an interpreter translator. But then I decided, I wanted to do more than interpret and translate what other people were saying. I kind of wanted to have a voice and perhaps give other people a voice, especially because of Title IX, what I had learned about the power of the law and how the law can make such a difference in the lives of people. And so then I came to the University of Hawaii, and then I went to the University of Hawaii Law School, graduated in worked for a downtown law firm. Then I worked as in-house counsel for a Japanese company during the bubble economy of the 80s, traveled around the world making various investments, back in Siberia, Russia, Australia, Southeast Asia, and of course in Japan, and China, and across the United States. Did that for 3 years, completely burned out. And then I decided now I want to go give back to this community. And I thought, what do I want to do? I decided I wanted to be a judge. So if I can explain a little bit about what our court does, we are the court of final jurisdiction on all issues of state law. So how many of you are U.S. citizens? Okay, and some of you are not. Okay, all right. So as you know, in the United States, we have a federal form of government. We have the national government based in Washington, D.C., the 3 branches of government. There is a United States Constitution, but it's a little bit different from a lot of other countries. Each state also has its own constitution. Each state also has its own 3 branches of government. And what's a little bit different from some other countries is that state courts are free to interpret their own constitution to give greater rights to its people than are provided under the federal constitution. So I'll get into that a little bit more when we talk about what's happening now. That's why I'm so privileged to be a justice of the Hawaii Supreme Court, because we are free to interpret our Hawaii state constitution to give greater rights to our people than is provided under the federal constitution. But in terms of our court, we take the Hawaii Constitution very seriously. We have traditionally given more rights under our Constitution than provided under the federal Constitution.
Hear ye, hear ye. The Court of the Kingdom of Hawaii is now in session. All rise. The Honorable Judge Griswold presiding, the First Circuit Court of Oahu is now in session. All those having business before the court, please step forward and you shall be heard.
Be seated. Call the first case.
The first case is Oni versus me. Mr. Harris is the counsel for the plaintiff, Mr. Oni. Mr. Bates is the counsel for the defendant, Mr. Me. Mr. Oni contends that Mr. Me took 2 of his horses.
Proceed with your opening, Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Your Honor. We will prove that the defendant, Mr. John Lee, did unlawfully seize and sell 2 of Mr. Oni's wild mares. We will also prove that
Mr. Bates, please give your opening statement.
Your Honor, members, defense will prove that the plaintiff, Mr. O'Neill, had no right to graze his horses on Mr. Eads, and that those horses were trespassing on private property.
We will hear the case by the plaintiff first. Mr. Harris, you may begin.
I would like to call our first witness to testify. I will call Mr. O'Neill to the stand.
Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, or the God?
Mr. O'Neill, did you pasture your horses on Mr. Reed's land?
Yes, others and I always pastured. We are all four IONA tenants under that law. We all share the use of the land, just like before.
You may cross-examine the witness, Mr. Bates.
Mr. O'Neill, who owns the pasture land?
It's true. Owns the land. Mr. Meek only leases the land from the chief. He pays the user.
You mentioned labor days. Who do you work for on those days?
The chief. You own my land and just the land. In return for our land.
You work for the layout, but you pasture your horses on the land that he pays to you.
The land is our land. I take care of the land and leave the place. So I will use the land to pasture my horses. Mr. Meek is chief land we do. We all take care of things together. So we should share them. Just like we do.
Mr. O'Neill, do you have your own private property?
Yes, I do. But it doesn't change the fact that I work for the right to pasture my horses and to choose that.
No further question.
Witness may step down. Call your next witness, Mr. Harris.
I call Mauka to the witness stand, please.
Please raise your right hand and place your left hand on the Bible. Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I.
Were you in Honolulu on August 30th, 1857?
The witness may be seated.
Yes, I was at the auction. What did you buy? I got 2 mares from the coming and who worked for me.
How much did you pay?
$8 for one and $9 for the other.
Is that a fair price?
Well, I should have paid $80 or even $90.
Were you suspicious of such a low price?
Yes, it looked like owning horses, and I didn't think he was planning to sell them. So I said, you know, it looked like owning mares. They said, well, they belong to me now. Do you want to buy them or not? I bought them all right, but I made them give me a receipt of sale.
Your Honor, we would like to enter this receipt as evidence labeled Exhibit A.
Maybe examine the receipt, Your Honor.
Court accepts as evidence the receipt of sale labeled Exhibit A.
Thank you, Mr. Mauka. I have no more questions.
Mr. Bates, would you like to cross-examine the witness?
Well, you said that about the horse. When you questioned the human, did you show any proof that the horse belonged to you?
The receipt was proof enough for me.
No further question.
Mr. Harris.
We rest our case.
Very well. You may return to your seat, Mr. Aloha'Oe. Mr. Bates, the court will now hear the case before the defense.
That's all, Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have here the lease date between Mr. Reed and Mauka on the 16th of February, 1853. I wish it entered as evidence for B. Now,
The court accepts this evidence model. Exhibit B.
now I ask you to look at this leasing agreement and tell me, is that your signature? Does this lease have certain land, fish ponds, and rights to firewood and control of the land?
Will the court reporter please repeat the question?
Does this lease here have certain land, fish ponds, and rights to firewood in the animal or near there?
Yes, but there is no limitation to capacity. I can't give away my grass and then I have to stop.
It was only 2 horses listed. What was the more?
Well, I had one person, everyone likes it. There could be hundreds of other animals in my land who all on grass. I should be able to do what I want.
So you're saying that this matter doesn't concern anyone else?
Other people depending on me. If I can manage land as I choose to, what I'm paying for. As a private property holder, I must have my rights.
One more question.
Thank you, Mr. B. You may return to the defendant's table. Having heard both sides of the case, you, the jury, must decide. If you think Mr. Alumni is in the right, then you should find in favor of Mr. Alumni. If you think Mr. B is in the right, then you should find in favor of Mr. B. The jury may now decide. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, you have heard the verdict of this court. Mr. Alumni, for the loss of your fine horses, the court orders Mr. Meek to pay you to replace your horses. And in the future, Mr. Meek will allow you to graze your animals on his land.
Alright, this court is now adjourned.
Well, as we're finishing up our tour here, we visited the King Kamehameha V Judiciary Historic Center here in downtown Honolulu. It's been a great visit. We had a chance to meet, of course, and have a private conversation with the Hawaii Supreme Court Justice Sabrina McKenna. But after that, very exciting, we had a chance to see a mock trial that we did, which actually put us all in the seats of different role plays. And that underscores how important education is for this type of thing. It's one thing to study and learn about the law, but another thing to get yourself hands-on and sort of put yourself in the shoes. And that's what we've done here today. Very exciting, a learning experience for us. And also to share really what makes Hawaii a special place. Some of the challenges it faced, confronting different judicial systems, and as a place that brings together many different cultures. We heard also from the Supreme Court Justice how, while Hawaii may not be perfect, it is a good model of a place that brings together, well, again, different perspectives and relative harmony. More importantly, I think for us, it's exciting to just get to come and see some of the history here, understanding more about this local place, and to bring it to you as our way as we have shared this on the Zoom link. So on that, we're going to close this great visit, site visit to this tour of the Judiciary Center here in downtown Honolulu, and we'll continue now with the next part of our program. Thank you.
Hi everyone, it's Phanwin again, and we are here at the Hawaii Study Center, and I am here with Inga from Germany. Inga, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes, hi. I'm actually American, born in Germany, but nevertheless, I do have German roots. I came in 1964 to 66 on an ISI student interchange program, and it was a wonderful program. Got my master's here in Asian studies because I knew nothing about Asia.
Oh wow! Is there a specific area of Asian studies that you're focusing on?
I studied Chinese.
Wow!
And my master's thesis was on the foreign trade exchange program, trade program at mainland China at the time.
Wow, and you also participated in the East-West Center program. You're an alumni. Could you tell the audience briefly about the program that you participated and how it affected your career and your studies?
My background was completely different when I came to the East West Center. I had a major in psychology, natural psychology. So I learned so much about geography, politics, culture, and arts like we're today. It was just an amazing experience. And out of that, I met my future husband.
Nice.
And we started our own business of doing consulting, environmental consulting. And then later on, after he passed on, I started teaching in business, marketing, and now strategic planning. So it will open so many doors, personal as well as professionally. I just totally enjoy the program. I'm now the chapter leader for our California chapter, and we just won the award for the chapter leader.
Yes.
So we're very humble to have that honor because we look at other chapters and they did so much more than we did. But we're trying to make the other generations part of our chapter.
That's awesome. Congratulations on receiving the awards. Any thoughts about yesterday's conference or today's events, the tour, the art gallery, and the Lo'i tour that we have so far? Any takeaways you would like to share with the audience about your experience so far?
Well, we really, as alumni, appreciate participating in the strategic planning of the East West Center, and we really look forward to the center being known as the catalyst for mutual understanding and collaboration on the Pacific. It is really a fabulous training program for various disciplines, industries, and we really want to make the East West Center better known in our state as well as nationally, in California and nationally. The other thing that I noticed that is we have very good representation. Of course, we had a lovely opening ceremony and dialogue, and just meeting everyone again. It's just a wonderful experience to be together.
Awesome, thank you. If you were to describe today's tour in 3 words, what would they be?
Eye-opening, beautiful, and wonderful to see the students involved in the POI work now. We saw them coming and helping, so the participation by the students in what's going on is very good.
I see. That's awesome. And shortly after this, because we're currently at the Hawaiian Study Center, we're gonna go into the Lo'i, and then we'll be showing you what it is like with the taro patches down there. So stay tuned. This is Phanwin, back to the studio. Welcome back, everyone. I am here with Sorrel, yes, I am in front of the taro patch. The taro patch is right behind me. It's really pretty. This is actually my first time here, but again, I'm here with Sorrel. She was a participant in APLP back in 2005, and I'm going to ask her to briefly introduce herself to the audience.
So, aloha, Micah. My name is Sorrel Rivera. I was a participant in the Asia Pacific Leadership Program from 2005 to 2006. I lived at the East West Center for just over a year, and it was a transformative moment for me.
Wow, that's awesome. Can you briefly share with the audience how the APLP program that you participated benefited your career when you were working at the Asian Society in San Francisco?
So yes, I worked at the Asia Society in San Francisco for about 4 years. I had progressed my career as far as I thought I could go there, and I was really looking for a change and to do something different, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had some thoughts in my mind, so I was really at this inflection point of what should I do with my career. I could do lots of different things, but I wanted to scale my impact in the world. So the really great thing about East West Center and the APLP program is that it gave me the time and space and place for introspection and deep thought to think about what I could do next. Plus, I had the support of peers and colleagues, which gave me time to really figure out what was right for me. And then subsequently, I decided to pivot my career. I went to graduate school at Scheidler, got my MBA, and then after that, some of the relationships that I made at East West Center ended up being people that worked for me in my next venture. So it was pretty influential in terms of determining where I went next in my career.
Oh, that's awesome. Any takeaways from the conference yesterday that you would like to share with the audience?
Yeah, so I've been a participant in both the media conference as well as the alumni conference. I currently work for LinkedIn, which is a large social networking platform. And so lots of thoughts on, or I think my biggest takeaway from the media conference was about the responsibility I have and people in my field have to curate data in the right way and to protect journalists. So feel really strongly about what I heard there. I was deeply moved by Maria Resa's remarks and her struggle, but also inspired by her optimism and her energy. So feeling very energized after her and thinking about how I manifest that mission of protecting journalists. So feel really good about that. I think from the conference yesterday, it was just really wonderful to I feel like I'm sitting at this nexus of the middle alumni, where we have a more Kapuna alumni and a younger generation. I'm sort of in that middle area, and it's just really wonderful to connect with the younger folks and to understand that though programs change and evolve, our values and what's brought us here is still the same. There's a lot of common themes, and trying to think about how can we support each other to achieve our goals and our objectives.
Wow, that's awesome. And how do you feel about being in the taro field and visiting the art gallery this morning?
Yes. So personally, I am Hawaiian, Chinese, Filipina, Portuguese, and Puerto Rican. My parents are from Hawaii originally. So this place I find deeply moving and spiritual, and it's just wonderful to be here and to have it on campus in terms of the Pacific Arts Festival being highlighted at the gallery, deeply moving, and to just see how all our islands are connected, the common themes. There was a current fellow there from Fiji, and we had a couple giggles around different things. One thing that really stood out was one of the older generation was watching the video and didn't know where Kiribati was. And it occurred to me that in until maybe the 40s or 50s, it was called the Gilbert Islands. So to be able to make that connection for our older alumni was really exciting, and to think about how things are changing and evolving in the world. So really exciting and impactful and wonderful day.
That's awesome. And if you could describe the conference and your overall experience reconnecting with the EWC Ohana in 3 words, what would it be?
3 words: intergenerational, reconnection, and multidisciplinary. So we're bringing together, arts, culture, this intersection of the media and what's happening in the world today, and then everyone coming from different disciplines. So that multidisciplinary approach to everything that the East West Center does really resonates with me.
Wow, thank you so much, Sorrel, for taking the time to interview with me in front of this beautiful taro patch. And this is Phanwin, back to the studio. Hi everyone, welcome back, and we're still at the taro patch. And here with me we have Belle. She used to work for the East West Center and she's volunteering for today. Belle, could you introduce yourself to the audience?
Okay, I'm Belle Panda, and I am from Hawaii. I've lived here all my life, and I worked for the East West Center for 33 years. In fact, I was a student assistant before I worked for the East West Center. And I worked 24 years in housing, and then the rest of the time in the education program.
Oh, that's awesome. And you are volunteering today in the international conference. Could you tell the audience how you feel to reconnect with your former colleagues and new and former alumni of the East West Center?
It's wonderful to see everybody again. It's really nice. And it's just nice that people remember me and they remember my name. That is amazing to me.
In fact, this morning when we were walking through the taro patch, Shane told me that you used to work for the East West Center. And so it's really a pleasure for me to, as a new staff, I've been here for 4 years, but as a new staff, to meet former staff like you volunteering, it tells me how connected the East West Center community is.
Yes.
And any final thoughts to share with the audience, how you feel, or any takeaways from meeting the alumni, young and older generation so far?
It's just wonderful seeing everybody again. And this was the best part of my job, meeting the participants and helping them out. And then even seeing them after so many years,
Right.
it's really heartwarming to remember me.
Yeah. Yeah, and just one final question was that you mentioned that you worked for the East West Center for 32 years, 33 years. Can you briefly explain what was your favorite moments about working for the East West Center?
Oh, after I retired, actually, I welcomed students for the YCD program. I welcomed them at the airport.
Right.
And it was just exciting to see them because you're talking to them on the internet.
Yeah.
But to actually see the person. And I sent them a picture of myself and they could identify me as soon as they came off the plane.
Right.
And that was exciting for me.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool. I think that's it for today. I just picked up some wonderful mangoes that just fell off on the ground. So we're still here at the Lo'i patch. It's the taro patch. And this is Phanwin again, back to the studio.
Plenary panel session that's going to discuss a very exciting research project. The center was recently granted a large $1 million grant from the Henry Luce Foundation based in New York, their Asia program, and this project is going to be looking at, well, they'll describe it in more detail. The title of it, it has to do with vulnerable deltas in Southeast Asia, climate change, water, waste, and socio-economic transformation. And the exciting thing is it's going to showcase, as we'll see in a moment in this panel presentation, some of the newest hires that we've got. This past year, the center was very fortunate to bring in a new group of young research fellows. They'll be sharing some of the work they do. And as we know, a lot of what we do at the East West Center is collaboration, working with many others, partners in the region. And they're going to describe a very complex project that involves many players of collaboration. So we look forward to it. And as we continue, we're going to then have opportunities to learn about more parts of the center, as we'll have a lot of booths set up after that plenary session, showcasing different parts, different departments of the center's work. So we look forward to joining us, and thank you. And we'll see you after this. Aloha.
We are emceeing the program, so it is such a great opportunity, to be with you this afternoon. Yeah. And yeah, I am Emily from the Philippines, also a member of G20.
So we'd like to start this session with an action summary from yesterday's strategic priorities session. And I'd like to invite Tane Duncan, EWCA Executive Board Vice President of Participant Engagement, to share the results that can guide our next actions as an alumni community.
Well, thank you, Raymond and Emily. I appreciate your willingness to MC too. So we have had an opportunity to have a little bit of a discussion about some of these items, but we wanted to make sure that we closed the loop and that we had a chance to really share some of the incredible brainstorming ideas, intergenerational feedback we received yesterday, not only from the strategic priorities programming, but also from the board meeting. We had kind of a really nice synergy between these two. I want to thank Ying Chin, Tulua Samafua, Gretchen Alter, Ann Hartman, Hypatia, who I know is in here somewhere as well, Christina Monroe, the online facilitators, and the EWCA Executive Board for all of the work that they did into making this strategic priority share back possible. So first, we've had a discussion. We were able to hear from President Vares-Lum about the strategic priorities for the East-West Center. But just as a quick review, those 5 strategic priorities are to equip and develop leaders, convene impactful dialogues, partner with the Pacific Islands, foster environmental solutions, and support good governance. In yesterday's sessions, we were able to develop breakout groups on each of these 5 priorities, as well as to include online members in each of those 5 priorities as well. We did a World Cafe style brainstorming session. Depending on which group you were in, it may have been more of a shared brainstorming session. And we also were able to get feedback from the online participants using a platform called Mural. It was really incredible to see how many shared ideas ended up popping up from both the in-person sessions and our online sessions. After we had our sessions yesterday, some of you all went to some of the cultural experiences. Some of y'all were able to join us for a little bit of a share back and a discussion about each of those 5 strategic areas. And we had a joint group discussion about those crossovers, those points in which each of the 5 strategic priority groups actually found alignment about projects and actions that they wanted to participate in. We just wanted to highlight what some of those common themes were for those strategic actions. Throughout each of the groups and each of the strategic priorities, we found 4 kind of common themes that popped up. First, to expand chapter development funds, fundraising within home countries, and utilizing funds for alumni-sponsored scholarships. Second, to empower virtual access to strengthen cross-chapter collaboration organically and to encourage next-generation alumni engagement. Third, to improve support networks in country, including homestay opportunities. This popped up in several different ways. It was a really innovative idea. And to encourage post-EWC exchange. And then finally, to utilize programs and expertise in alumni chapters to identify important issues and response needs. For example, there were some specific issues like mental health concerns, local environmental action, natural disasters. And we saw that individual chapters were really able to assess those needs and the appropriate actions better than having just a universal program or universal plan for action. So what are the next steps now that we've seen what those action plans are and what the strategic priorities are? From that huge list of potential actions, I want you to identify any actions you'd like to take. Also to see if there's anything missing that you feel needs to be added. And from there to reach out to your chapter to set strategic actions, reach out to other chapters, and then also to reach out to the EWCA board for support in order to enable those actions. I really appreciate your participation yesterday and being able to share this. It was really exciting for me to see personally the intergenerational dialogue that was happening in the breakout rooms. And it was really motivating to think about what, for example, since I also belong to the board of the Asian Studies Development Program chapter, what we could do, what we could be responsible for, and how we could reach out and maybe network with other individual chapters. So thank you so much. I'm gonna leave that up there for just a second.
Thank you so much, Dane. You know, as a soon-to-be alumni, and I'm excited about it, I can say that my colleagues and I are ready to move forward on these priorities alongside alumni from earlier generations at the center. Their strength and wisdom, along with our eagerness to learn and do, will be a powerful combination for achieving things. And next, I'd like to introduce some of the next generation of researchers here at East-West Center. It's an exciting moment with a new project launching and funding secured just this month for a multidisciplinary team to work alongside partners in the region for the benefit of local communities alongside Southeast Asia's Delta. Before introducing them, I'll note that you'll be able to ask questions and discuss with them more at the EWC Showcase and Talk Story next. They will be joined by their colleagues from the research program, so you can learn even beyond this highlighted project, more about the work being done here at the center. So Dr. Micah Fisher focused on human dimensions of environmental change, such as deforestation, land degradation, and urbanization in the Asia Pacific. We also have Dr. Phanwin Yokying, who is an applied microeconomics researcher. She studies development and gender issues affecting the livelihoods and well-being of disadvantaged and vulnerable groups in Asia and Africa. You can read their full bios along with their colleagues from the research department who will be joining for the EWC Showcase and Talk Story next
Aloha mai kako, selamat siang. There's probably too many languages to say hello in. It's wonderful to see everybody here. It's such a great gathering to see alumni of different generations and to talk about experiences from just the casual everyday life experience here at the Sweat Center, as well as how life trajectories have really changed as part of participating in these programs. So there's supposed to be 4 of us speaking today. Unfortunately, you only get the Thailand and Indonesia portion of the research project. But as it was introduced, we just won this Henry Luce Foundation grant. It's a really exciting grant, and it comes from the breadth of experience across Southeast Asia, where we put our minds together. We have a lot of experience studying land and natural resources and agriculture and livelihoods, and zeroed in on an issue that we feel climate change is especially sensitive on. So deltas, especially in a region like Southeast Asia, which we will talk about, is a really interesting area of study, biophysically and the political economics of that. And one thing I really want to highlight is the strong partnerships that we have in Southeast Asia. So extending how we do research with partners in several countries in Southeast Asia, looking at the issue of vulnerable deltas. So again, my name is Micah Fisher, and Dr. Ming-Li Yang, who studies the Cambodia Mekong region, as well as Dr. Kevin Woods, was not able to join us today, but we'll be talking about their really exciting projects that transcends these vulnerable delta regions of Southeast Asia. So why study Southeast Asian deltas? Especially historically, when you think of the relationships of trade, economy, environment, water was a really important conduit of connecting downstream and upstream and trade across the region. But these are also places that are undergoing significant amounts of change, especially when you think about centers of urban expansion. And we know about the Mekong region, about Bangkok, which is located around a delta area, as well as locations in Myanmar. But when you think about the entirety of the archipelago across Indonesia, smaller deltas in the Philippines as well, really connects people and is an area of really interesting research where we see the interconnectivity of populations as well as ecological and environmental issues. One last thing, I know that disasters were an important issue that was highlighted in the strategic planning discussions. So when you think about flooding and drought and the many different vulnerabilities that are taking place, sea level rise in archipelagic region, it is a really, really exciting area for us to be zeroing in on and studying. Okay, so this is our overall framework, right? We don't want to get too theoretical, but we want to really highlight how all the different pieces of our projects fit together. So we see these multidimensional vulnerabilities in Southeast Asian deltas really located in the middle, but our backgrounds who came together to propose this research revolves around issues of resource extraction, development, and dispossession, issues of violence, especially in Myanmar, as well as issues of risk and resilience. So how these really, really dynamic places are changing and how to build resilience when we think about the normative issues of planning, policy, and development going forward. The livelihoods, you'll see in our presentation today how interconnected these regions are and how much mobility there is between these places and how it's really reshaping the economies and environments of Southeast Asia. And finally, the issues related to climate change. We see these in the floods in Bangkok, in Jakarta. We see these in the droughts that really, really create vulnerabilities for people in immediate terms, but also the slow onset ones, right? The coastal communities where you see sea level rise, how that's really transforming a region is a really exciting area for us to study. And you'll see that the different backgrounds that we bring into this discussion are really related to issues of labor and mobility, environmental and climate change, environmental governance and livelihoods, as well as infrastructure. And one last thing I'll also mention is that this is not just a collaboration on issues of Southeast Asia and our in-country partnerships and context, but we've also partnered with the Woodrow Wilson Center to study how China is also influencing the region of Southeast Asia. So we'll clarify that a bit more throughout our presentation.
Hello, everybody. My name is Phanwin Yokying. I am a research fellow at the East-West Center, and I am originally from Bangkok, Thailand. And I had a pleasure to get to know and interview many of you from yesterday's conference and also this morning at the art gallery and also at the tarot patch. It was really fun. Anyway, so for this project, I am introducing the 3 main goals for the Luis Foundation project that we have just received. The first goal for this project is essentially to promote policy relevant discussion and collaboration among our regional universities and NGOs in Southeast Asia in order to support individuals and communities that are vulnerable to climate change in Southeast Asia. Our second goal, focusing on China. Our second goal is to create a platform and also to create opportunities for Chinese experts as well as Southeast Asian experts to focus on issues that is greening China's BRI investments in Southeast Asia. And our last goal focuses on education, which is to apply our research findings in order to generate multilingual as well as interdisciplinary educational materials. And next, I will be moving on to our study sites. We have 3 deltas in total that we are focusing on. The first delta is the Chao Phraya Delta, which is located in Thailand. And the second delta is the Mahakam Delta in Indonesia. The third delta is the Mekong Delta located in Cambodia and Vietnam. So we have 3 deltas in 4 countries in total. Next, I will be going over our research partners. First, focusing first on Thailand. I'm not being biased at all. I always pick Thailand to be first. But anyway, so for Thailand, we are partnering with Chulalongkorn University as well as Sinakarin Wilod University. Both of these universities are located in Bangkok. We're also partnering with Khon Kaen University. It is located in the northeastern part of Thailand. And for Cambodia, we are partnering with Asian Vision Institute. For Vietnam, it's An Giang University. And for Indonesia, we're partnering with Kanchamada University and Malawarman University. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Anyways, and also Forest Society and Dala Institute. And also we are focusing on China and we're partnering with Global Environmental Institute for China. So now we are going to be moving on to our individual research, and I will start us off by focusing on my project in Thailand. And so my project focuses on the impact of climate variability on labor allocation, which in this case is captured by time allocation among farmers living in the Chao Phraya Delta of Thailand. In terms of context, as many of you may be well aware, climate change can influence all dynamics of ecological and biological systems, but the effects of climate change on economic outcomes, especially in terms of labor supply and demand, are poorly understood. And so I aim to use this project in order to narrow the gap in the literature. And so essentially, what I am trying to do with this project is to uncover the understudied consequences of climate-induced reallocation of labor. And this is essential because when we collect the data on this, it's going to reveal how individuals, especially the marginalized communities, how they respond and also adapt to climate change. And so this is the importance of my project. Okay, so, and my research questions, I have 3 main research questions. The first question is essentially, how does drought and flood influences time allocation in work and non-work activities? And how does that influences time poverty? Not income poverty, but time poverty. If you want to learn more about time poverty, you can ask me later on. I don't have time to describe about it. But, and also how does that affect, what is the heterogeneous effect of climate change on time use by gender and also by age cohort? Age cohort seems to be irrelevant in this case, but in the context of Thailand is highly essential because Thailand has been experiencing the issue of rapid population aging. And so the pictures that you see on the screen here are the pictures, it's a collection of pictures taken in 2019 during the summer of my colleagues in Khon Kaen University, as well as her students and I interviewing farmers along the central part of Thailand. And this is part of Dr. Jefferson Fox project. He's sitting at the back over there. And this is the type of collaboration and field work that I also envisioned from my project in Thailand. And the targeted province are 8 provinces situated along the Chao Phraya River. Chao Phraya River is denoted by the dark blue line on the map there. And Bangkok is also in the list because Chao Phraya River, it essentially runs through the heart of Bangkok. I will not read through this, but if you want me to, I can. But if I read through it, it sounds like I'm rapping. So I'm just gonna leave it there for you to read it. Anyways, let's move on. Okay, so I have 2 members in my team that are based in Bangkok, as alluded to earlier. On your left is Dr. Aruni Promkambut. She is an assistant professor in the Faculty of Agriculture at Khon Kaen University. She is an expert on field data collection. I've worked with her before. She's excellent, she's fast and very accurate in terms of data collection. And on your right is Dr. Min Tham Bui. She's Vietnamese Thai. She's an assistant professor in the Faculty of Economics at Sinakarin Wilod University. She specializes in time use data. And together we're going to be working as a team to produce the following activities. First, we're going to produce Thailand's first sex disaggregated and panel time use survey data that will uniquely incorporate climate change indicators. I don't think other data sets have incorporated climate change indicators in their survey before, which means that it's going to be a little bit of a challenge for that I will overcome. In terms of, we also have a strong capacity building activities as well. We're going to do workshop, webinars. We also have think shop, for example, on quantitative research methods, processing, analyzing time use survey data. And also we're going to have short-term language program that will bring Thai students from participating universities to come to Hawaii, take a language class in order to improve their English fluency. And most importantly, we're going to have our joint research collaboration with my partners in Thailand using the data that we've collected. And so hopefully that will produce high quality manuscripts. And so overall, that is basically my project. And so now I am presenting on behalf of Kevin. He's a little bit, he's taller than me. He's a little bit older than me. He has diversity in terms of hair color as well, but I am, and if you don't mind, I have to read off the script because this is his project. So I'm gonna read this to you. And his project focuses on political ecology of mobility and vulnerability from Burma to Bangkok. And he will be partnering with Chulalongkorn University's Political Science Department, building their previous project on the slow onset of environmental change and the politics of mobility and migration. And his project is linked to rural political economy and agrarian atrophy in Burma with Burmese migrants' vulnerability in Bangkok's Chao Phraya Delta. And next slide. Okay, in terms of ethnic territories in Myanmar, it has been armed with political conflicts for the past 7 decades, leaving millions internally displaced and 10,000 dead. A few million ethnic minorities, Burmese, have fled the country over the past 2 decades, most crossing the borders to Thailand and mostly illegally. The military coup last year has only worsened human security and has already resulted in many more fleeing for their lives. Next slide. But it is not just the condition of war that pushed vulnerable populations to flee. A large-scale, unregulated resource extraction and businesses have devastated communities and their environments. A mixture of resource pillage, land grabs, war, and the lack of government support or pro-poor policies have helped to explain the flood of migrants into Thailand's urban center. Okay, while Burmese escapes these various forms of vulnerabilities in their home villages, they encounter new challenges in Bangkok and its vicinity. Many of them are still of various illegal status. Despite the government's effort to legalize, they perform low-paying and often dangerous jobs, much like migrants worldwide. The area that they work in and live are some of the Bangkok's and its surrounding most prone to flooding, as experienced in 2011's flood. And yet migrants keep arriving, presumably because Bangkok offers more opportunities and less vulnerability than their own countries. But will the tide begin to change as Bangkok increasingly gets drawn by subsidence and climate change impacts? And so that concludes the presentation on behalf of Kevin. And now Micah is going to present Ming Lee's presentation, followed by his presentation.
Dr. Ming Lee Young and I also have some different physical features. She's sorry she can't be here today. This is the title of the project. I'm also going to go through some prepared notes. It's a really exciting project. It seeks to understand issues of vulnerability and resilience, which are produced in the Mekong Delta, especially where transboundary Mekong River discharges into the South China Sea. A lot of people think of the Mekong as synonymous with the rice bowl of Vietnam, right? But here, agricultural livelihoods are threatened by increasing salinization and sea level rise. So this project seeks to expand our consideration of the Mekong Delta region to include Cambodia, where the Mekong Delta physically begins around the capital of Phnom Penh. Working with partners at the Asian Vision Institute in Cambodia and An Giang University in Vietnam, this project will seek to highlight the transboundary interconnections between land, water, and people within the Mekong Delta. So a lot of changes going through this region, especially around hydropower dams that are taking place, development upstream of the Mekong Delta. A lot of activities like sand mining are disrupting the critical hydrological and sediment flows that support agricultural systems and the way of life throughout the Delta. But vulnerabilities also produced by rapid land use changes and land cover changes resulting from urban expansion, irrigation infrastructure, and large-scale projects such as the new Phnom Penh International Airport. These developments have disrupted the close relationships that people and their livelihoods have with the seasonal rise and fall of the Mekong River's waters. This project will build ground-up understandings of vulnerability and resilience by examining multi-dimensional factors that impact the farming livelihoods in the Mekong Delta. We will seek to understand how farmers have exercised their agency in adjusting livelihood strategies to cope with these environmental changes. This project will also examine commonalities and differences in the ways that vulnerability and resilience are produced in Cambodia and Vietnam. So finally, my project will focus on changes that are happening in Indonesia. And the different partnerships that I've established. We'll be working with the Universitas Gajah Mada, so in Java. We'll be networking across a group of universities. The location of the study is actually in East Kalimantan, and it's about a really important issue taking place in Indonesia. There's plans to move the capital from Jakarta, which is in Java, to East Kalimantan, where they're building a brand new city on a very, very ecologically sensitive delta region. And this project will focus on land use, climate change, mobility, and issues of financing related to China's involvement with very, very expensive cement factories, how resource extraction is changing in Indonesia. So first, this is Jakarta. A couple months ago, I gave a presentation about issues in Jakarta. I've been studying issues of flooding and land use change and urbanization in Jakarta since about 2007. And you can see here how fast the upstream areas are changing, just how much migration is going on to the region. And that results in really challenging water vulnerability issues with water supply, water quality issues, and the floods that happen many times a year in that region. So this was the impetus for moving the capital. And since the last election, it's happening. So from Jakarta, for those that are unfamiliar with the geography of Indonesia, this is East Kalimantan. So the new capital will take place, is being built at the moment between Samarinda and Balikpapan. Borneo, one of the largest islands in the world, is a very, very mega biodiverse region that's also gone a lot of changes with resource extraction, palm oil plantation expansion, as well as internal migration dynamics that are taking place there, especially with the establishment of this new capital city. And this capital city is creating a new capital. There's all these ideas about the identity of a nation that's being developed through its creation. So it's going to be created as a very, very renewable energy city, very green, a lot of ecotourism. It's going to be zero fossil fuel. And major plans for the future that hopefully will guide the development for Indonesia. So this project is really trying to understand what is happening in those regions and how this place will change relative to the plans that are being laid out. And you can see the Mahakam Delta there. If you could see just the satellite imagery of how complex that Delta region is, it's a really, really unique ecological site. This is a picture of President Joko Widodo, the president of Indonesia, with the governor of East Kalimantan. So this is the city, right? They're standing on ground zero of where the city will be built. And you can think about the transformation that's going to take place relative to land and water and resource issues, what livelihoods, what indigenous communities were there before, what kind of livelihoods will come in, what type of major global investments are going to be channeled through this area, as well as the impacts related to climate change, which will affect these low-lying regions. So using this as a case study, we're going to be working across many different universities and other NGOs and other research institutions to really seriously study the issues of vulnerability in Delta regions. And these are just some of the issues around water quality, the opportunities, right, for greening these issues through development, where they go wrong, where they go right, will be especially interesting in our findings over the next 4 years. These are ideas that are still formulating. What's really exciting about this project is we're going to be going to Bangkok at the end of the year. For the next 4 years, we'll be going to each of the deltas, so the teams get to learn from each other. We're going to be developing curriculum. We're going to be doing field schools. We're going to be working with PhD and graduate students across these countries in Southeast Asia. Looking at the research to policy nexus, right? This isn't just about research, it's about research that influences decision-making, working with government officials to do climate and resilience planning, doing action research, talking about research ethics. How do you engage with these very dynamic and diverse communities, and numerous others that are still to be planned as this project develops. So to sum up then in our final slide here is that we really, because this is a Henry Luce Foundation grant, it's not pure research. The research is really important, and us as fellows will continue to do good research in these areas, but it's really about the networks and the leadership, which is a pillar of what the East-West Center hopes to do and hopes to really showcase really strong research principles with local universities in these places. The capacity building is really important, the knowledge production, looking at language, the differences of how we use, formulations of climate adaptation and resilience, how that translates not only into the national languages, but into the numerous and very diverse cultural regions and languages of this area. And working with the Wilson Center will also be really interesting, just to see the extent of influence of China and development throughout the deltas of Southeast Asia. So I'll end my presentation there. Any final words from Phanwin? Otherwise, we'll turn it back to the organizers. Thank you very much for listening.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Despite not being exactly like the people you're represented today, I think you did an incredible job showing this important and really timely research. Thank you, everyone. I just wanted to explain first. Well, first, I'd like to recognize other EWC researchers who you'll be meeting outside today. Doctors, I think we have them here today, Sandeep, Dr. Adeli, and Dr. Sohail. We just wanted to explain what's happening here behind us outside today. We're really looking forward to talking with all of you more outside and as we move to the lanai for the EWC Showcase and Talk Story. You'll have the opportunity to meet a few of the people in the programs at EWC today. And although this isn't a comprehensive showcase, but it highlights some of the new and changing activities, as well as those with live participants to engage with you. We'll just be going over the pods that you'll see outside today. Inside Kioni, we'll have one pod or booth for the Communications and External Relations Office. CER is led by Jake Hamstra. For that pod, join the Communications and External Relations team for a sneak peek of the center's exciting new website set to launch this summer. The next pod, the East-West Center Washington team, who flew in for the event. EWCW is led by Satu Lamai. Learn more about East-West Center and Washington publications and programs carried out across Washington, D.C., the continental U.S., and the Indo-Pacific region, including EWC's flagship Asia Matters for America, America Matters for Asia initiative. The next pod, the education program, you'll have a chance to talk with students who are eager to meet with you. The education program is led by Dean Ann Hartman. In that pod, you'll reflect on the past, share your memories, and explore the legacy of East-West Center with fellow alumni and current students of the EWC. Meet current student leaders to learn more about the education program today and how they plan to shape the future of our region and the world. The next pod, the Pacific Islands Development Program, is joint led by Dr. Mary Hattori. You can share your story and learn more about Pacific Islands Development Program as we capture stories from alumni attending the conference.
Yeah, and next we have the Asia Pacific Leadership Program, or the APLP, whose 20th cohort, that's us, G20, say hello. We have just arrived in the islands for one of the first in-person short-term residential programs. The center has restarted since the pandemic. APLP, of course, is led by Gretchen. Hi, Gretchen Alter. So she's our our leader, and is one of several initiatives under our professional development program. So in our pod, we'll be able to answer the question, what kinds of leadership does the future need? Would love to listen and share our answers to this question with our current APLP program participants. And then we have the professional development program that is led by Niruban Balachandran and has a pod next to APLP, representing their many programs. Stop by for information about programs and publications from our professional development program, as well as playing a fun game where you need to correctly answer just two quiz questions. And then we have Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Office led by Nawahine Lanzilotti. We'll share about the DEI committee's work, which falls under the leadership of Ambassador Bob Riley, Chief Operations Officer. The Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion booth invites alumni to share what DEI means to you. Learn about DEI initiatives at EWC and stay connected to inform future DEI initiatives. Ekomomai. Then we have research program led by Jefferson Fox. We'll have more researchers to discuss their work with you one-on-one. Researchers will be available to discuss their current projects. Enjoy finding connections with staff and potential collaboration points. it's a great opportunity to talk story and learn about what EW is today.
Great. Thank you, everyone, today. Thank you. And let's move outside and let's engage in a conversation.
Thank you so much. And this has been Emily and Raymond, no, your instant MCs for today. Thank you so much.
Aloha everyone, good morning from Kuala Lumpur and good afternoon to Hawaii, Honolulu. Yeah, things are really vibing and really exciting happening in at the Emin Center. But yeah, before that, I just want to say that I hope you have had a really great day. The alumni participants at the conference have been going all across the island, going on different tours. So we know that for the Makai Tour, they went to the Hawai'i, where they had traditional culture, wetlands, Mauka Tour, going to Lo'i, and Māhele Tour, going to the Iolani Palace for mock trial. And at 2 p.m. just now, you just had a plenary session talking about vulnerable deltas in Southeast Asia. But now we're moving on to another session at 3 p.m. where we are going to be visiting different booths across the Emin Center, and my colleagues are going to help us cover the sessions there. So we have a few booths happening right now. So we have the communications and external relations. We have the research program, leadership program, Pacific Island Development Program, education program, the ISWA Center DC office, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and also like an event, a booth for evaluation forms. But it's really exciting to be able to allow participants to learn a little bit more about different departments across the East-West Center and learn about the work that different people do. So it's a really exciting time. And yeah, so I'm just gonna turn it over to my colleagues who are going to cover the sessions live. Yeah, so we have the Thought Story Corners, and I see my boss Lance over there, you know, looking sharp as always. And yeah, so hopefully there will be someone.
Well, we're joined here today by Suraj, who's come from India, and he's part of the Asia Pacific Leadership Program. And welcome back to the East-West Center.
Thank you.
Now, you were sharing a little bit of just some reactions to what you've seen in the International Media Conference. Tell me a little bit about your own cohort. You've come together with a group of different participants coming from many other parts of the world, and that's a lot of what the center is about, bringing people together.
Yeah, so it's a mixed cohort. We have about 23 people from the Asia Pacific region. So what we have learning now, you know, it's just been a week, but we have learned a lot about cultures. We have learned about, you know, what people do in different walks of life, what leadership means to them, and what brought them here. So we are in the first phase of talking about leadership, thinking about leadership, and then it gives us an opportunity, you know, we have dropped everything back home, whatever we are doing. Yeah. We are here just thinking, talking, maybe we can even say breathing about leadership. So there is a lot of opportunity to discuss, converse, and also debate. So that's something which I really like about it.
Well, that's so great. And of course, as we have today, the alumni conference, bringing back to people, this is also an opportunity for you to develop some new connections that are going to be part of your professional life as you continue. These same participants, as we see already again and again, people come back and they remember very well. And they remember very well the people that they part with. So beyond that, can you say a little bit more about the work you do back in India? Tell us a little bit about what what brought you here? In other words, what you're doing
Okay.
back home?
So I'm a speech language pathologist by profession. I was a faculty and a clinical consultant. I have about over 16 years of teaching, clinical and research experience. What brought me here was I suddenly felt that what am I going to do for the next 5 years? What am I going to plan for the next 10 years? So I wanted to take a pause and then reflect upon what I want to do and then move myself into a leadership role. When I was looking for it, I had a lot of APLP alumni. What triggered me is the APLP G19 came to Chennai for their field visit. I had an opportunity to meet them, talk to them and understand. So I felt that this is something which I can look up to and look forward to. And what reinforced me in the first 1 week is I met about 3-4 alumni who are doing a wonderful job. They are into transformational phase, doing something to the community, giving back to the community. So it has given me also connections to connect with health sector, business sector, to see how we can collaborate and then work together.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Suraj. I think what you just described really encapsulates what we're trying to do here. Bringing people together, having impactful dialogues. The leadership that you describe, of course, it means different things for different places. And that's another key part, that we have to appreciate the diversity of how people see the world. Well, thank you for sharing that. And as you can see here, well, we've had a chance to learn Suraj sharing with us what brought him here to the center. And he's part of this new cohort that's just arrived there in the beginning phase of the Asia Pacific Leadership Program, one of our long established programs here at the center. And again, thank you so much for sharing that. We're going to continue with more on the program. Let's take it over to our next host. Thank you.
My name is Phanwin again. Welcome back. And I am here with Daniel. He was a former visiting scholar of the research program. Daniel, did you want to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes, my name is Daniel Scollin, and I am a professor at Shasta College, and I was a 2008 alumni.
That's awesome. And you mentioned that you participated in the project with Jeff. Can you briefly explain to the audience about that project that you did with Dr. Jefferson Fox?
Yes, I was working on part of a larger project that he's had ongoing research under a NASA grant looking at land use change in montane mainland Southeast Asia. And so I was brought in to do a land use analysis using GIS and satellite imagery as well.
That's awesome. And how did your participation in the visiting scholar program back in 2005 benefited your career?
Well, as a professor that teaches GIS, it was a wonderful example for me to be able to share with my students actually applied research and the methods that are used in applied research and showing some of the results. And actually, Jeff and I were at a conference in Las Vegas, a geography conference in which we presented some of those results. And it's been wonderful because my initial contact with Jeff was through community mapping, and he published a book through the East-West Center in 2005. And this year I'm going to work with Micah Fisher to actually revisit some of that work. So it's sort of coming full circle, which has been nice.
Is there an area in Asia that you're particularly focusing on? Is it Indonesia?
My personal area of interest is in Malaysian Borneo. So East Malaysia, Sabah and Sarawak has been where most of my experience is, although the work that I did under Jeff was in Thailand. So northern Thailand, we modeled a land use change moving into the future for a small watershed as part of this larger project. And of course, Micah's experience is in Indonesia. So we're really drawing from case studies around Southeast Asia.
Wow, that's awesome. Do you have any takeaways or your favorite moments of this conference that you would like to share with our audience at home?
Well, it's just been wonderful to see this cross-cultural exchange and see people from so many different parts of the Indo-Pacific region, and to be able to share experiences, and the tour today that really sort of anchored us in sort of the local IONA and the sort of things that are happening here in Hawaii. It's a privilege to be part of it.
That's awesome. And how do you feel to attend the conference in person?
Oh, it's great. Yeah, so we've had too many virtual meetings, and just to come back to be here in the Tea Garden and to be back at Lincoln Hall and to finally get a chance to be in the conference center. Yeah.
That's awesome. And if you were to describe the conference in 3 words, what would it be?
Enlightening, heartening and inspirational.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to interview with me today. And this is Phanwin, back to the studio.
Aloha and welcome. Carlos here, and I'm joined today by Mandeep, who's come. He's here at the East West Center from Nepal, and Mandeep is a student at the University of Hawaii Manoa, where he's pursuing a doctoral studies in genetics. So Mandeep, thank you so much for joining us. Can you just welcome to the center, and can you just say a few words about yourself? What brought you to the East West Center? You've been here now about 3 years, is that correct?
Yeah. Thank you so much for asking me, providing me an opportunity to share my experience and feelings. I'm from similar country, the country of Himalaya and Nepal. We have similar kind of cultural diversity and environment. It's like Hawaii is like home to me. It's my 3rd year here in Hawaii. We have a lot of environmental diversity, a lot of lakes, mountains, and similar is the environment here in Hawaii. So I'm studying the genetics. I'm doing the research on genetics here at the Department of Molecular Bioscience and Bioengineering.
Excellent. And now we've had an opportunity these last couple of days, as you've seen many people returning for the alumni conference now, the other media conference we held. I wonder, you had a chance to participate in some of these activities. What was it like? Did you have anything that you found most interesting? Any takeaways you can share?
Yes, I did. I was there yesterday, and I met a couple of people who were the alumni since 1960s or 70s, and I communicated with a lot of people, and they did have some similar kind of stories. I was amazed that when I meet a person, they are sharing about the CBI program, the exchange program, the potluck, the kitchen, the dining, and it's like, I feel like it's the unity in diversity.
Exactly.
People all around the globe, they are from the different parts like Southeast Asia, Africa, America, the mainland, and all the people are from the diverse background, but they have something in common. I really feel like the East West Center is a connecting bridge between all the cultures.
Excellent. Very well said. And of course, as you saw here, we have people who've done the same experience decades ago, a lot of traditions and things that they share. And also, as we see, the connections that are made. And so you've been here now several years. I'm sure you've had opportunities to meet with other professional and even friendships that you've made that are going to be lifelong lasting, right? As you finish, what else can you say about, again, maybe in what ways the East West Center is going to help as you continue your own professional career? Would you see yourself going back to Nepal and basically sharing what you've learned here?
Exactly. East West Center has been very fruitful to me. Actually, I met one of the researchers who is Rand Longman. He is doing climate research as a East West Center scientist. We have a collaboration with him. So East West Center even helped me in my research work. And I'm seeing after a decade that we will be having the similar experience with this current alumni is having. So I like to gather all my knowledge and experience and do some fruitful research in my country. That would be the knowledge which I have gained here. I want to apply it in my home country after a decade of so.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that, Mandeep. It's been great. And so Mandeep is, again, part of the student affiliate that we have here from the East West Center. He's pursuing his graduate studies here in genetics at the university from Nepal. And thank you so much for sharing those insights. Well, we'll continue now off with our next interviews. Over.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Phanwin again, and I am here with Phanwin. He is originally from Nepal, and I am going to ask him to briefly introduce himself to the audience.
Hi, I'm Praveen Mishra, originally from Nepal, and here I am a student affiliate in EWCA and doing my master's in animal sciences, and my research focused mainly on poultry nutrition and gut health.
That's awesome. And could you elaborate more on your research project and also your research project in Nepal that you've been doing?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I can say my basic education background. So originally I'm from Nepal, but I did my Doctor of Veterinary Medicine from Bangladesh, Agriculture University, Bangladesh. And then at the same time, I was involved with several research activities, which influenced me and which enhanced my research quality, as well as it interact with research activities. So later I moved with poultry nutrition part, and after completion of my DVM, I am admitted here in animal science program as a master's student.
So what are your favorite parts about being part of the East West Center student affiliate?
The most important thing for a student life or any person is bonding. So I can say when I admitted here in US Manoa and went to EWC as a program. The cooperation among the other students, other participants, EWC members, everyone, cooperation is too good. That makes our life easier.
That's good. Okay, and after you've graduated, what do you hope to be doing?
After graduation, I will complete. I will join as a PhD student. Then after PhD, maybe I will join as an industry as a researcher. So my main focus is on research.
I see. That's awesome. Okay, I wish you the best of luck in your studies, and thank you so much for taking the time to interview with me today. This is Phanwin, back to the studio.
Aloha and welcome. We're back here, and I'm joined by
Leoshina.
And Leoshina is from Papua New Guinea. And tell us a little bit about how you're connected to the East West Center. You've been here now several years, and especially this summer, you're coming to join us at the center directly.
So I came under the United States South Pacific Scholarship Program, and that's by PIDP, which was the selecting committee, and I came with another Papua New Guinean student. I'm a bachelor's student at Hilo, University of Hawaii Hilo, studying and majoring in political science.
Excellent. Yeah, and so again, part of the USSP program. And tell me, you've come to the center. What have you learned so far? You've had several years of experience, but a lot of it in these last years, of course, under COVID was a little more limited. Now we're reopening, reconnecting. Can you share maybe any reflections? We've had these last couple of days, lots of activity, lots of people coming. What are any takeaways? Anything that you can share that you enjoyed the most?
Yes, well, I've been able to meet with some of the alumni and learn a lot about the programs that used to be here before. And well, COVID came and kind of, there were challenges with those programs, but also PIDP as a new one coming up. Yeah, I'm very happy and privileged to be part of that, and where Dr. Mary has revived a lot of PIDP with Dr. James.
Excellent. Yeah, no, our Pacific Island Development Program, of course, as you mentioned, is now, it's gotten some new staff expanding. We anticipate a lot more activity, and of course, as part of that, you're yourself, as you finish your studies in Hilo, you're studying political science. How do you see, I guess, the kind of lessons you will take as you get back to home? What do you see, and what role would the East West Center play in that?
Well, back home in Papua New Guinea, and I'm also from Bougainville, so Bougainville is a very important part of my family's history, and so I hope to go back and use some of the knowledge learned in policy to help our landowners in our resources, and the past copper mine, the activities and the crisis we went through, and leading to referendum. I hope to help in that.
Excellent. So, and of course, many lessons learned. And the other thing about the center is, of course, you build a lot of connections, people that will be part of your growth in the future. And you've met some from different parts of the world. Any that you can reflect on here? Again, the interesting people that you've met?
Yes, just today we met with the chief d'affaires for US Embassy to Suva. And so being a part of those discussions, having a seat at the table as a Pacific Islander, when our countries are being discussed, it's great to be involved. Yeah,
it's so true. And I thank you for sharing that, because again, part of what we do here at the center is really bring people together to convene. And at the end of the day, like you said, you need a seat at the table. You have to, if people are discussing your affairs, and of course, the lessons you will learn and take away, and the connections that we've built here. That's what it's all about. Well, thank you so much. And again, very grateful to have insights here. Tell us again your name.
Leoshina.
Leoshina. I'm still learning it, but very grateful for your comments here. Thank you for being with us and for sharing with our visitors here, joining us on Zoom.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Aloha. I'm Steve Bell from the Graduate Degree Fellowship in the Education Program at the East West Center.
Thank you, Steve. And you attended the conference, the media conference, as well as the Alumni International Conference. How does it feel to be attending the conference in person?
It is very heartwarming. It is also very encouraging, very sustaining in hearing from a Nobel laureate on her work to really bring people together to for good governance, to have discussions about what journalists can do to make our world a better place from so many different areas, from good governance, from supporting climate, mitigating the terrible effects of climate change, hearing about all kinds of people's research in those areas, really diving into how can we equip and develop leaders, and meeting with those leaders throughout all of their programs and through these conferences of convening all of us together to make a better world. Really, really heartwarming, affirming.
That's awesome. Another relevant question I have is, do you have any favorite moments or takeaways or highlights that you would like to share with the audience about the two conferences that you attend this week?
Yeah, sure. For me, the hearing from Maria Reza, having her there, and as she opened her presentation talking about her news organization, Rattler, had just been shut down overnight, and be there and to learn that was devastating, but also to see how she showed so much resilience, compassion, power to go forward. That was very much a high point for me. And having media from all over the world there. Of course, the opening ceremony on Waikiki Beach and seeing all these people together again, that was rich as well. Thinking about the conference for alumni, it's been wonderful to hear about people's research. It also has been really rich to be with all of these people who of intergenerational, recent graduates, more seasoned graduates, all with their ideas of giving back to the center and how can they, the things that they took from the center, put into practice for the future generations. That was really powerful and really, really affirming.
That was an excellent answer. Thank you. For the last question, if I were to ask you to describe the conference and this experience in 3 words, what would it be?
I would say it was profoundly rich, extremely affirming, and just a great, great focus on the future of what we can do working together.
Wow, thank you so much for taking the time to interview with me. And this is Phanwin, back to the studio.
Aloha, everyone. Thank you so much. That was really exciting. I love listening to all the amazing interviews done by our colleagues, Carlos and Phanwin. It was really fun. Thank you so much for making us feel included. I was really interested hearing a lot of multidisciplinary interests and different expertise from alumni from all across generations and also disciplines and communities. So we have, like, for example, a GIS expert, and I was intrigued when he said that he was really interested in East Malaysia, because I am currently in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So it's really nice to actually hear someone interested in my country. And we also have speech pathologists, and then, so how some of the alumni was talking about how exciting it is, to know that there are people living in Halimanoa from the 1960s, and he is just there right now experiencing the fellowship himself, and, going to be part of this large cohort of everyone. And then we also have, ISRA Center staff sharing their opinion as well, because it's also nice to not just have alumni, but also listening to things from a staff perspective. So I am also looking at our Zoom chat here. So we have Syed over there, we have Tim, thank you so much for joining, and Matthew, who is from South Korea. If anyone, if you guys don't mind me, sort of picking out your names, I guess because Matthew mentioned that you are from South Korea, do you want to unmute yourself or maybe turn on your camera and introduce yourself, where you're from, what's your background, and what you think about the conference, if you're interested in maybe unmuting yourself and also to turn on your camera.
Hello, everyone. I am from the U.S., but I'm here in South Korea now. I'm a current GDF at the center. I'm here doing some field research. I am I'm a master's candidate in dance, culture, and performance studies, and I'm doing research on gender and partner dance in East Asia with a focus on South Korea. I am also doing a little project with the alumni office, continuing these conversations about our sort of past experience, looking into the future. As a participant coming in just last year, sort of at the tail end of the pandemic, this conference is really it's one of those, as we see like the other programs coming back to in person, seeing this conference both as in person and with the virtual element, seeing those sort of possibilities come back together, and sort of a continuing of opening up and building those intergenerational connections is something that really is exciting for me as a participant and as sort of a future alumni moving forward. So yeah, really grateful for this sort of continued push, new beginnings, and all of that, and happy to be sharing this space with y'all.
Thank you so much, Matthew, and all the best with your studies. It sounds really exciting, and I hope that you do well in South Korea. And hopefully, when I'm back in Hawaii, if you're staying in Manoa as well, would love to keep in touch with some of the alumni who are still in the program. I love seeing the cross collaborations that we have within the Zoom. And it's also great that we also have a more direct access to each other. Instead of even though we're not meeting in person, at least within the communities, we still are able to get to know each other. All right, over to Carlos.
Welcome, Carlos. I'm back here, and I'm joined by one of our staff here at East West Center who is critical for all of our infrastructure, none other than Caitlin from the Communications and External Relations, and it's known here as CER, and they carry out a lot of things. Of course, our communications within the CIS Center, with the outside world. I wanted Caitlin to maybe share a few words about some of the work they're doing there, and in particular, maybe a word or two about our upcoming webpage refresh that's happening.
Yeah, so I'm actually the digital managing editor. So I am managing now the East West Center's website, in particular the web refresh project. So we're looking at sometime in the near future, next couple of months, perhaps, a brand new East West Center website with lots of cool new features, lots of new sections, new places to be putting things like videos, and to be highlighting some of the great work that the center does. We're also going to have a new navigation section, so you guys can find things according to different topics or regions of the world that you're really interested in learning about.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. And of course, the center, like every one of us, has had to deal with the pandemonium of the pandemic. That's my way of phrasing it. And that is, we were traditionally doing a lot of more in-person activities. We were closed down. Now we're reopening. But maybe I wonder if you could share any lessons that we can take away, because we've been able to continue programs, obviously in the form of more hybrid and online. We will, of course, continue monitoring the status of when we can do those. But can you say a few words about lessons that we've learned from this last 2 years of the pandemic?
Yeah, sure. I think it's really important for us to remember that, putting things up onto the website and including them all in the digital space, it gives us a wider reach. It allows us to actually access more people and to engage more people that couldn't actually have the ability to come to do something like attend an event at the center. By making it virtual and having a home for it on our website, we're able to actually reach more people and to sort of share our expertise and all of our stuff that we're actually doing at the center.
Excellent. And of course, those that are joining us as we speak now, coming from many corners of the world, is a good example of that. And this is technology that, again, it's a double-edged sword. A lot of times it frustrates us, and there are challenges for different generations sometimes, but at the end of the day, it's not going away. We need to learn how to harness it and use it, and that's what we're doing here. We are combining, as we have this in-person conference, also reaching out to those who couldn't be here, like yourself. So again, grateful for that. And a lot of, as you mentioned, this is not a simple process. Of course, revising a web page it's like playing chess, you know, at 11 different levels. But as you mentioned, in a few more months, we can expect a brand new web page that's going to be launched and more interactive, lots of more other features that are going to be, I think, beautiful to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely, you know, keep track of us on social media, sign up for newsletters. We'll be making announcements about this, you know, come visit our new website. And yeah, we're really interested in just, you know, getting lots of great feedback about how things are going so that we can continue to improve it. Because what we're going to be launching is not, you know, the end product. The website is constantly evolving and constantly getting new technology and information. So we're going to be looking at, you know, continuing to move it forward to keep up with the times in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you who may be of a generation where you're having more challenges with technology, simple advice: just check with your grandson or your nephew, anybody who's, you know, under 25, they will help you right away. But at the end of the day, the refresh that we're doing is going to make it more user friendly and access a lot more materials to share what we do. So thank you so much for this valuable snapshot of what the communications and external relations are doing here at the East West Center. All right, and we're back now and joined by another very special guest, one of our staff here at the center who has a very important job. Nawahina is the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Coordinator at the center, known as DEI. And Nawahina, give us a few words about what it is you do at the center and what the role is.
Well, I'm really privileged to be in this role that is fairly new to the center. Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion is an initiative that was started in 2020 by staff. It was first a working group that grew because of their work, a comprehensive survey, because of their work grew into a formal committee of staff and the first DEI coordinator in 2021. So I'm really privileged to be in this position and working from the amazing work the foundation that was set from that first group of staff. So diversity, equity, and inclusion, as you can imagine, encompasses many, many things in the center. But one of the main things is that we're looking at how we can make the East West Center internally, we can make it a place where everyone can thrive, and also how we can engage all of our participants more for all of our external work that we do. So it's really exciting to have a chance at this alumni conference to really start connecting. For me, it's the first time I'm really getting to meet with a lot of alumni in this capacity. So getting to connect and gather more stories and make more connections so that we can really mobilize, where we can really bring in all of the experience and the work that the alumni does across the world.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, the center has long prided itself in bringing diverse perspectives, people from many parts of the world, and that is, of course, part of the value. But even then, it requires us to step back, reflect as an institution, as an organization. Are we reflecting those values? What can we be doing for our own workplace? That's a key part of what we're doing with this DEI position. Very central, very important, increasingly more and more attention to, obviously, the challenges that we have within the workplace. And Hawaii, again, can serve as a great model, and we're looking to see how that can be done. Well, thank you so much for sharing a snapshot, again, the work of the DEI coordinator at the East West Center, and we'll continue with more. Back to you.
As you can see just now, that's the booth of the diversity, inclusion, and equity. And, you know, the East West Center really takes pride in the diversity, inclusivity, and also and also equity that we have within the center, not just the staff, and also like within the fellows that we have and the connections that we make. Because yeah, and it's really great to hear it from Nava herself. So she is the recently she's our new DEI coordinator, and we could definitely see a lot of efforts made by Nava to make the East West Center a lot more inclusive and a lot more diverse. I mean, I would like to think that I am a product of that diversity, because I come from Malaysia, and I was really grateful to be given the opportunity to represent my community from Southeast Asia. Yeah, so that was really exciting. And we also could hear from our teams at the communications and external relations, so the CER team, and it's very exciting to hear that we are going to have a new website that's a lot more friendly and a lot more relevant to our times. And as mentioned by Carlos, it's really important, especially post-pandemic, to make sure that our virtual presence is actually really seen, because as we see, moving things, technology has trying to catch up with technology is really hard. So it's really important for East-West Center that has been established in the 1960s to sort of catch up with the relevant times and also technology. But we are also very excited to have a special guest to be interviewed after this. But in the meantime, so if any of you guys are interested to share, feel free to do so. But I believe that our honored guest is here. But I see that Tim is you have turned on your camera if you're interested in unmuting yourself and
thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm just very honored to respond to, since I've been in Asia, I'm from USA, but I've been in Asia for 40 years, between Japan and South Asia especially, and Malaysia. I've been there a few times, in Singapore, etc. And I'm very much indebted to so many of our EWCA family for, coordinating some things that we worked on together in those different places. Again, yesterday I was involved, and I probably said too much, because I've been a lecturer in universities here in Japan for almost 30 years.
Thank you so much, Tim. Well, I'm actually interested, if you want to share a little bit about your background, how you're related to the East-West Center.
Oh, it's so, for all of us. I mean, we were related somehow before we got there, and then we found out we were related much more after we were there. But I had been in Asia for about 20 years before I went to East-West, and I was there in 1989 to 91. And then after that, I was again back in India and Sri Lanka, and back to Japan and to Nepal, etc. But I'm an ethnomusicologist by, in my university work, but I'm also a performing artist. We have an NPO called the Indo-Japanese Music Exchange Association. It's IJMEA.net. And we're working with so many things. So we've had the honor to do charity concerts for the Nepali earthquake, for the terrorist attack in Sri Lanka last year, and some students in India that we worked with put on a very big charity concert for the children of Japan just after the earthquake here in 2011. So more than my own performance, which I really love to perform, I play Indian classical music on Japanese instruments and sing in a few of the languages that in my background. But really, like the East-West Center, the linkages, being able to do things with other people and then see how they do things with other people, that's a real joy.
Thank you so much, Tim. We will definitely I would love to catch up with you a bit more. And I know that Matthew is also doing performing arts, so it's really interesting to see that linkages within the Zoom meeting itself. I believe that our interview is ready on the field, so I just want to turn back to Phanwin and our East-West Center President Susie. Go ahead, Phanwin.
Well, welcome back, everyone. This is Phanwin again, and I am here with the president of the East-West Center, President Susie Vares-Lum. It's such an honor to be interviewing with you today. Thank you so much for taking the time. The first question that I am going to ask you is, since you've attended the conference, the IMC conference, as well as the International Alumni Conference in person, how does it feel to attend the conference in person?
Thank you, Phanwin, and I want to thank all of our alumni joining us online. Know that you are here with us in spirit, because I want to just relay to you the mana, or the spiritual energy that I feel here. You can hear the voices in the background. It's very exciting just to see the faces. And yesterday when we had the opening ceremony, they had the flags coming in. I got to say, I'm not a crier, but I really felt the emotion hearing Malaysia, Indonesia, the Pacific Islands, Japan, Korea, Okinawa. I mean, just to hear them and the banner walk up, people in the dress of that country. And in Hawaii, we say chicken skin. You get chicken skin, and that's exactly what happened. there is no replacement for that energy, but I'm so grateful that in this COVID-19 environment, though, that we can have this virtual ability to connect with you. I hope that somehow you can hear the water, you can hear the laughter, you can hear the dialogue, because we're sending it your way and sending you that energy.
Thank you so much, President Susie. The next question I have for you is any takeaways or favorite moments and also highlights of the media and the IMC and the Alumni Conference that you would like to share with the audience?
I got to say, number one, are meeting the alumni from 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and current, and the new emerging students of the Asia Pacific Leadership Program. We were able to bring them and meet those who've come together and said, oh, this is my wife, this is my husband. We met 55 years ago. Oh, we're the first 100 in 1960 who came through this program. And we're still together. We still stay in contact. The California group who they all know each other. They meet regularly. They're trying to get the databases, because the East-West Center alum, you are all our legacy. I got to tell you, I go to Washington, D.C. I've gone 3 times since January. And when I go, I share about the stories of the impact each and every one of you have had on lives. And just to hear every single story, whether it's community leadership, whether it's being a giving citizen in their communities or high-level government leaders, we have the full range. And that has been, to me, the most powerful. And of course, everyone was excited about having Nobel Peace Prize laureate Maria Ressa. What was phenomenal about bringing her here was she called out Facebook or Meta, right? She called out them. But in the audience was Nathaniel Gleicher, from Meta, one of the key leaders on the policy and planning for Meta. And he sat there and he listened to it, right? And then he was able to give his side of the story. This is what we're talking about the East-West Center does so well. We can bring both sides of the story to have a real dialogue on contentious issues. And that was powerful. It was an example of what the legacy of the East-West Center is all about.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for the excellent answer. Second to last question is that if you were to describe the conferences in 3 words, what would it be?
Inspiring, powerful, and motivating.
Okay, that's perfect. And one last question, diverging away from your experiences at the conference, what does it feel like to be the first female and also first Native Hawaiian to be the president of the East-West Center?
I am just honored to be in this role, representing the people of Hawaii or the Native Hawaiian, Kanaka Maoli. You know, here in Manoa, in this space where we have the Manoa stream right behind us, where I can imagine many of our ancestors knew, and they would come to the mat to talk. I just feel so connected, and I know that as our ancestors traveled across the Pacific, being able to connect the Pacific today in a different way has been wonderful. And being a woman, you know, just being able to hope and believe that I won't be the last, I cannot be the last, that, you know, the world is made up of 50% women. We need to have women in roles where their decisions are made, like Ruth Bader Ginsburg is often quoted, where you know, the voices can be heard, and that there are unique roles that people like to place women in, but the possibilities are endless for young girls, and I'm excited to be in this position.
That's awesome, and I am excited that you are the first female, first Native Hawaiian president of the East-West Center as well. Thank you so much for taking the time to interview with me today. And this is Phanwin, back to the studio.
And we're back, and we're joined today by several of our colleagues who come to us from the East-West Center's Washington office. Delighted to welcome them. We're joined here by Spencer Gross, Abigail Hell, and Dr. Satu Lemay. A chance to just share some quick introductions. We're joined, of course, many people joining us today in the conference by Zoom. So Spencer, you want to say just a brief word? Tell us what you do in the Washington office.
Yeah, so I help coordinate our Asian Matters for America series. which we just launched our newest version yesterday at the International Media Conference and East West Center Alumni Conference. So it was a great day, as well as our Young Professionals program, our program for undergraduate and graduate students in the DC office.
Excellent.
Yeah, my name's Abby, and I help Spencer with the Young Professionals program, helping them with their writing on local US-Asia connections, and I help with various grants in the office.
Hi, I'm Satu LeMay. I'm the Vice President of the East-West Center, and I direct the Washington office as well. And I work with my colleagues on a range of programs, including visiting fellows, Asia Matters for America, and a whole series of outreach activities that we do both in Washington and around the country. So delighted to be here, and congratulations to the East-West Center on the International Media Conference and the Alumni Conference.
Yes. And we'll leave it on that. Again, some perspective here from our colleagues from the Washington office of the East-West Center. Back to you at the control room.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carlos and Phanwin. It's really exciting to actually hear from the East West Center President, President Suzy, and also Vice President Ms. Satu. I saw Niti's chat offering for collaboration. So Niti just now, she was saying that if you're still working in international field as an alumni in Hawaii or elsewhere, she invited herself to be contacted. So feel free to introduce yourself. Hi Niti, can you hear us? We saw you just now.
Hi, sorry, my camera is a little off, but I just want to introduce myself to everyone. I enjoyed all the introductions and the conversation and the great banter amongst such distinguished persons at the East-West Center and from elsewhere as alumni. I'm based here in Hawaii, and I would like to meet some of East-West Center's alumni participants, as well as researchers. If they're based in Hawaii and still doing work in the international field, I would be interested in knowing about their activities, their research, how their current position relates to their international oriented experiences at the East-West Center.
Thanks, Niti. And before I let you go, would you mind just sharing with us about how you feel about the conference so far, and also how you are connected to the East-West Center?
When I graduated from the University of Hawaii, I had a degree in Asian Studies and Political Science. And I applied for a research intern position at East-West Center and wrote a paper, did research for several months on foreign aid to Asian country. And after that, I subsequently did graduate work at the University of Chicago and University of Cambridge. I ended up marrying my former husband, who's German, and we lived for many years abroad. And I always had an international focus in my research. And when the opportunity arose to teach at Hawaii Pacific University, I moved back to Hawaii and taught there as a professor for quite a few years, and took early retirement and occasionally write academic oriented papers and still do some research on topics, like tourism, topics like gender studies, expatriates, human resource management, and economic development, for example, sometimes. And I feel that the East-West Center, was a good experience for me at the beginning of my studies, graduate studies. And I think when I listened to the conference, as you just asked me, I was very interested to know the research topics, and the introductions were quite interesting and fascinating. And actually, I lived as an expat for 3 or 4 years in Thailand. And basically, I found that to be a very unique and interesting experience. So I was especially interested in what persons were saying about Southeast Asia, for example.
Thank you so much, Niti. That was really that was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing, and it's so fun for me, to see so much focus on Southeast Asia. Obviously, I'm biased because I am from Southeast Asia. Yeah, so I would also I also see another mention in the chat here. Farewell saying that he's from Bandung and he was an East West Center affiliate and Fulbrighter from Pakistan. And you met your husband who was from Indonesia, and now you're continuing both your works in your countries. And I'm actually really interested. So if you don't mind me calling you, to unmute yourself and also to turn on your camera just to see how just to hear a little bit about yourself, if you wanna turn on your mic and your camera. Is Farewell there?
Hi. Yes.
Hi.
Hi. It's like good morning here. So camera is like, oops. Okay. I will try. But aloha. Thank you. I'm just so excited to be connected live with everyone. Aloha to everyone. It's so lovely to see mentors also. I just see Shabir Tima, and yeah, it's just incredible. I wish we could be there. We hope to join one of the other years, maybe in the future. So.
Farewell, maybe do you want to share a little bit about your linkages to the East West Center? I mean, I guess also meeting your partner there, and just maybe your experience at the East West Center. Would love to hear your experience.
Oh, really? Like I wrote, it's life changing, really, because I came as a Fulbrighter. I think at the year I came, so I was the only one from Pakistan, and on campus. And then the next year, the Azima also joined. And so what I didn't realize, the training that was happening at the center was this constant, like, because everyone wanted to know about Pakistan, so you become this ambassador, this great meeting friends, especially from India and Bangladesh, was really really shaped my research and project, because it made me the peace project later that I developed. It all started in the kitchen. It's like I was learning this dance form, which is originally from South India, but I learned it from the indigenized version by my teacher in Pakistan, this classical dance form, and never knowing those histories, those stories, the forgotten histories of the land that I come from, which is Pakistan. And then really impacted by the learning about Hawaiian struggle and the hula. And, it really continues to shape all of my work. And of course, we're very fortunate to have friends and best friends around the world, and wherever we go, really, it's really. I'm very nostalgic looking at the new participants, and I wish them all the best. And we hope to join you guys in person one of the years soon.
Would love to have you. I would love to have you in Hawaii. Like I'm working in Hawaii right now, but just currently visiting my family at home. But would love to meet some of you guys, some of the alumni. Just benefiting from all the wealth of knowledge and resources that it seems that everyone seems to have. It's just really inspiring to me. I mean, despite being virtual, it still feels very meaningful to me. So really appreciate all the great conversations that we're having right now. And personally, for me, I was also a fellow. So I was the Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative, the YCLE fellow back in 2015. And I was staying in Halei Manoa. And you are definitely right, Farewell. All the great conversations, usually start in the kitchen. So food really binds everyone together. So really appreciate your sharing. And so thank you so much for
my husband is contributing something, so I'll just share this with everyone. This is on our wall. So
that's so great.
This is a picture and we were gifted to us on our wedding by Mary Hammond at the time, and that's us with our friends. So this is news you might not recognize. It's me in front, and then my husband is behind. Sorry, there's a reflection. So, and there was a lovely letter from Mary, and she sent this for all of our family at our wedding. So we framed it and it's on our wall.
Aww.
What's amazing is this is our closest friends. So there's you know, my brother, like my alumni brother from Bhutan, and then there's Alima from India, and my husband, and then there's of course Pacific, you know, our friends from Hawaii and the Pacific. So yeah, my husband just handed me this. So yeah, so you guys are always in our home and our hearts. And
That's
I
so
wish the
beautiful.
center all the best for the programs in the future. Much
Oh,
love.
that's so nice. Thank you so much for sharing. What beautiful sharing. You gave me goosebumps, and I hope that there will be a lot more connections, not just not just professionally, maybe like romantically as well. We'd love to see all the love that's blossoming in Halimanoa. Just love to see love in the air. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Love, love, love.
Much love.
Yeah, so I know that in about 3 minutes, the East West Center, the conference is moving on to the next event in session, which is going to be the farewell reception, which is happening at the East West Center. It's going to be really awesome. Hello, hello. As you can see, there's so much food laid out on the conference center, which makes me extremely hungry. So I'm just going to do a voiceover of of the amazing food that's happening. Yeah, so I think so there is an announcement by Catherine saying that the interviews was really great, and thank you for those who have shared. So we are going to move on to the next session of the agenda, which is going to be the farewell reception. So this farewell reception is going to be covered by throughout the night. So feel free to stay on to watch all the excitement that's happening, the agendas and things like that. So there's still a lot of things going on, so feel free to continue staying on. But yeah, so as for me, I am tuning out for the day after the reception. But I just want to say again, as always, it's been such an honor being able to connect with you as your virtual host. You guys have been so amazing. I am so inspired just listening to some of your stories. Thank you, Tim, Matthew, Alice, and we also have Farewell who was sharing. Yeah, so thank you so much for sharing all those things. Yeah, you guys have been wonderful, and I believe that the farewell reception has started. Let's go back and have a good night. Bye.
I'm so blessed to live on Hawai'i Isle as I kalaiwa ilalo from the slopes of a volcano. The never-ending beauty makes me smile. Namanu pikake, ispele hulu, catch my maka every time. Kuehu kalepo in Pahala, same old people driving by. Just a few things on my morning drive.
So inspired. They asked me downstairs, what are the 3 words that you would describe this week? And I say it's inspiring. That's because of you. Powerful is the second word I use. The third word is motivating. I am motivated now to share your story. So I'd like to hear a shout out and a whatever sound you want to make or clapping from the 1960s. Let's hear the 1960s in the house. Go on the next decade, 70s. Let's hear 70s in the house. 80s, where are you? How about the 90s? 2000s. All right, current students. I love it. Multi-generational, multicultural connections. This is what the East West Center is about, all of you. I'm so excited to be here with you. I won't delay you further, but on behalf of the Board of Governors, and we have several here
We have, of course, our UH president, David Lasner, as you know, and he was cheering from the 90s in the program. We also have Brigadier General retired David Stillwell, who's also from the 80s. We're probably here at the same time when I was going to school, but I was in East West Center. And then we have Gene Ward. Is he still here? Well, he took off. He missed out. Do you have any other board members here? Well, there are many who are dedicated to your story. And thank you for your dedication. Many of you are sponsors. Many of you continue to contribute to those emerging leaders in the back. They're the ones that matter. They're the next generation. So thanks for paying it forward. So aloha and take care until we meet again. A hui ho, that's what that means. Until we meet again. It's not goodbye. You're forever part of our family. So aloha.
We're going to end the evening traditionally. We're going to end this event traditionally. Our dancers will continue to be with us. A really special IONA Contemporary Dance Theater. Cheryl, their director, so excited to have them. They will be here. But we are going to end traditionally. Hypatia leading us, but all with Aloha'Oe. Those of you who have come to our conferences know this is how it always ends. And we're glad to do that with you as we wrap this wonderful evening.
So now, if you could all please join me in singing Aloha'Oe. Until we